Well, let's get into our big stories, and we commence with that all-important bit about some police brutality, allegations of police brutality in Akatsi in the Volta region. 2 people have so far lost their lives in that altercation, which led to some reprisals from the youth. The Akatsi police station affected as well, and as you can see there, some of those who had been shot in the melee. And it has turned out to be another situation where people are talking about police brutality and how the police engages the ordinary citizenry. Well, joining us for that conversation this morning, we have Selom Ameza, an eyewitness who was on social media posting a lot of happenings there. We also have Wanda Gatepe, assemblyman for Akatsi. Both of them join the conversation. Let me start with on this one. Selom, I just want to find out from you, break it down for us, the incidents of the last few days culminating in this act which has led some people dead. Just narrate the story to us, Selom.
Okay, good morning to your listeners. I guess my voice is clear.
Your voice is very clear.
All right, so what happened is that on the 8th of April, on which a man by name Ned. So the 2 of them were walking when another guy on a motorbike, his name is Jamilu, he stopped to give them a lift to the house. So they just got onto the bike, and about 100 meters, they saw this police van. And the police van is a riot van in Akatsi. It's been patrolling the town. So the van is said to have stopped them, and the guys didn't stop. And then the van chased them. So as the van chased them, he chased them, and then he knocked them from behind and ran them onto the metal barricade by the road. You see the metal barricades they do on the road. The police van actually rammed the boys on the bike into the barricade. So Etor, the guy, he was at the back. So Etor fell and then hit the back of his head onto the street. So then he had a fracture in the skull. So the police took the guys and took them to the hospital that Friday night. When they took them to the hospital, they handcuffed the guys to the bed and told the nurses they were criminals. That's what we heard, that they told the nurses they were criminals. And after telling the nurses, the criminals, they took the guys their phones away to prevent them from reaching their families. So the whole night, the guys weren't able to call their families for anything. So it was the next morning that Jamilu, the guy riding the motorbike, he saw a nurse and they begged the nurse to give her phone to him to make a call. So he called his father, and then it was when the father and the families came before they realized Seto's case was serious. So the doctors then examined him, and then they realized he had a serious fracture in his head, and he was rushed to the hospital. Prior to that, his head was only bandaged. So then they rushed him from the Akatsi Municipal Hospital to Ridge Hospital, where he died in the morning. So when he died in the morning, when the youth got to town early Sunday morning, that was yesterday, the youth of Akatsi were angry, and then they rose up to the police station. And one of the reasons why they went to the police station is because the van that was involved in the accident with the boys on Friday night, the boys in town saw the van being repaired at a fitting shop by the bypass. Like, we have a new bypass in Akatsi. So the guys went to take pictures of the fitting shop, and they felt it was a way. They felt the police was trying to cover up the story. That's temporary evidence. So that was why everybody moved to the police station that Sunday morning, and it wasn't fine. It wasn't fine at all. The boys were throwing stones, and the police also shot back with live bullets. They shot, and they shot one guy. They shot about 3 guys. One died in the process. His name is Hamza. And funny enough, Hamza is a cousin to the Jamilu guy who was on the bike the police guys ran. So now we've lost Hamza to yesterday. And then another guy named Agbuibo, he is not mentally well. So when the police were firing shots and things, he walked over to them and said, why didn't they ask permission from him before they were shooting? He's mentally retarded. But then unfortunately, he was also caught in the waist by a bullet. So he's also in critical condition and has been transferred to the whole teaching hospital. So basically, in short, that's what happened in Akatsi yesterday, from Friday to yesterday.
So between these 72 hours or so, that is exactly what has transpired. But just to confirm a few things, you say,
Yes.
so the phones of the gentlemen were taken so they could not reach out to family or anything. That you can confirm
Yes.
that?
Yes, for the whole night, from Friday night. They
Right.
took their phones. It
So-
was
so-
Monday morning that Jamilu was able to get a nurse's phone to make a call. So that's
So
why,
it was a nurse's
that's why
phone that was even used
Seto's
to...
case got serious, because if he had been rushed to the Reach Hospital in time, he might have survived. And he's just 20 years. And the other boy who died yesterday from the gunshot is also just 16 years. So it's a very sad story in Akatsi.
And that's exactly why I'm asking, because especially in the case of Seto, if a call had been made earlier, who knows? I mean, we cannot conjecture whether he would have made it or not, but if it had been made in a timely manner, maybe he would still be alive today. But tell me, after the incident, post the incident, did the police take him immediately to hospital to get medical attention?
That's it. When the police knocked them down, they took them to the hospital and handcuffed them. And when they got to the hospital and they handcuffed them, they only bandaged Seto's head. That was what they did to him. And the whole night, they weren't able to reach their families. So, and then the police people branded them as criminals. So I think the nurses too didn't really attend to them the way they should. So if Seto was attended to that night, maybe he was checked and they realized the scar was deep, and then he was rushed to the hospital, maybe Reach or Whole Teaching Hospital, he would have survived.
Right.
But the whole night, almost, what I say, from when the thing happened to the next morning, he didn't get no serious medical attention. That's what the family say.
Right. So obviously there's some case of negligence in there. But for what reason did the police brand them as criminals? Break it down for us. I know there had been an incident before this bit where the police van hit these three on a motorbike. What had happened?
Yes. Okay, there's rumor that they said the police people said somebody snatched somebody's bag on a bike, like three guys on a bike snatched a man's bag about a day before. I think it's a day before. So the police people were looking for the suspects. And then the guys on the bike didn't know anything about that. They didn't know any snatching and they didn't know anything was happening. So they were just on the bike. But the police people in the van were looking for the person who snatched the bag. And it's quite difficult because the riot van is a riot van. And we have the Akatsi police themselves in the station who are supposed to do these domestic crime cases. But then we all surprised the riot van was chasing the boys because of a crime in time. The guys, they are not criminals. They are not. Seto is the third year student at Akatsi Sectech, and then he didn't snatch anybody's bag. It's very sad. It's not a bad boy. So it wasn't him. They didn't do anything.
All right, so we'll leave that to the criminal justice system to confirm. But I want to find out, so you're basically saying that the police had been told of three people on a motorbike who had snatched someone's bag or whatever days before.
Yeah.
And so when they cited these three people who coincidentally were also on a bike, one person was riding the bike, he saw his two friends and gave them a lift.
Yes.
They put two and two together and felt that these could be the people. Is that what you're suggesting?
That is what they're saying happened.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they set up.
Right. So based on that, is it on account of that, per what you know, that the police then went ahead to chase these people and eventually hit them against the guardrails?
Yes, that's what happened. That's what happened. That's what we are hearing happen.
I'm curious, the three gentlemen, I mean, if they had not committed any crime, why were they also fleeing?
No, they didn't flee. It was like they were just on a bike going. You know, yesterday I was talking to somebody and the guy said they didn't even hear the police people stop them. So they just realized when they were driving, they were right, they realized there was a police van chasing them. So they didn't see the police stop them, that's what they said. And then it's all just some way.
So it's a bit murky there because, I mean, if a police van is trying to stop you, you would have some idea. Yeah. They would likely turn on the siren, or maybe someone would, there might be someone using the voice bit to alert you and all of that. So it's a bit tricky there. No, we've heard of the fact that maybe, if I may, Selim, we've heard of the fact that because there were three of them on the bike, maybe they felt they were in breach of the law, and so they were trying to escape. Yes. Is that also something you've heard?
Yes, that's what we think too. Maybe they felt maybe it was 3 people on the bike, so the police might arrest them. That's why they were trying to go and then not be arrested. But then it's quite a sad story.
Hold for me, Selom. Let me also engage Wanda Gatape, who is assemblyman in that area. Wanda, thank you so much for joining the conversation. What story have you heard? What have you seen in respect of this development? Is it same as Selom's?
Hello?
Yes, Wanda, I can hear you now.
Yes, I didn't hear you well.
So I was asking,
yes,
the story you have heard and what you have seen in the
yes,
community, is it
yes,
exactly the same as what Selom is telling us? Just tell us narrate your story to us.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I can also say that actually I wasn't in town before the whole incident started. I traveled out of town on that same Saturday for a graduation program at Fort. So it was yesterday that I returned. But then I was monitoring the whole incident on social media. So what I heard is just similar to what, or same as what Brother Salom just narrated. Yes, that is what I heard. So when I came back, I tried looking for the families of the deceased, and then we went to them just to go and then to console them, also to hear the actual story. And just as Brother Salom said, those were the news we also heard. So this morning we're also trying our best to get to the police to also hear their part. Because when an incident happens like this, you don't just listen to one side and then you draw your conclusion. So we intend going to see the police to hear their part.
Right. And have you been able to engage any of the affected families? What have they been telling you?
I didn't hear that I said well.
Have you been able to engage the families of either Seto or Hamza or those who were witness to the incident? Have you been able to engage any of them? And if so, what have they told you?
Well, we've been to some of the houses. We left with one, which this morning we spoke with them and we're trying to trace their house. So we've been to Hamza's house. We've been to Yao, that is Dagwebo, the one who is also in a critical condition now at Trafalgar. We've been to his house too, but we've not been able to meet the families. But we met some really other friends in the house. So they narrated the whole story just as Brother Salom said. So no difference. So that's why we're trying our best to go and meet the police to get their part.
Right.
Yes.
Are you aware of any incidents involving criminals snatching baggers on motorbikes? I mean, is this something that has been happening in Akatsi? Not really. When you say not really, what exactly do you mean? Is it a yes or a no answer?
Well, it's not something that is so common that we've been hearing. So when I heard the incident, that is the police, and they try to protect us. That is their work. So this one is not something that I witnessed myself. I only heard it from people. So until I get to the root, that is getting to the police to hear their part before I can even draw a conclusion. And then I know what actually to say pertaining to that.
Is this the first time something like this is happening in the Akatsi municipality where people are gunned down on the back of any criminality? I mean, young people, something like this happening? Because there are those who say these incidents have been happening and that the youth of Akatsi are being targeted.
Well, to say guns like this, it's not something that has been happening anyway. It is not that. When we talk about police brutality, I would say this is the third time this thing is happening in Akatsi within the last 6 months. This is the third time this thing is happening. And within these 6 months, we are losing 3 lives. I don't know what is happening to the fourth person who is also in a critical condition this morning. I've not heard from them this morning. I spoke with the brother, but the network wasn't good, so I didn't actually get any truthful information as to how he's faring this morning.
Right. And fair warning to those of you watching, like you see the gentleman on the gurney, that some of these scenes may be disturbing for you to watch. But hold on for me, Wanda. Selom, Wanda, this is the third time something of this nature is happening, and youth have died. In this instance, we have 2 so far. For you, how many times have you seen similar incidents happen in the Akatsi area? And is this one too many?
Yeah, in the last 6 months, this is the 3rd time. Okay, this is actually, it's happened a lot of times. Boys complain about police brutality. I think people dying from police brutality, this is the 2nd boy to die, apart from the gunshot guy. But then I think it was last month, one other guy, his name is Achu, he was brutally beaten up by the police. And then he had to go talk to the radios, and it was all over radio. And apart from that, well, another guy named Pepso, I think about last 2 months or last 3 months, it was January or February. Some supposedly national security people came to his house at dawn around 2 a.m., broke his door down and mercilessly brutalized him. So, and then there have been a lot of circumstances where boys have reported police brutalizing them in their homes, like they break their door, national security. It's been happening. It's something I'm asking the Ghana police to really investigate. You know, it's been happening, and this is the reason why the youths don't trust the police any longer in Akatsi. Like, the youths have lost the trust because of all these things happening. The police are supposed to protect the youths, but then it's rather unfortunate the police keeps brutalizing the youths in Akatsi. It's something that has been happening. You know, 2 people have died out, but then a lot more people have been brutalized.
Right.
And there are so many people ready to talk about how they got brutalized. Like, there are so many people who would want to speak up.
Wow. It would be interesting to hear from such people who want to speak up eventually. But let me find out. I'm curious. So there was a reprisal. I mean, the youth of Akatsi took on the police. There was some vandalizing of police property and vehicles and all of that. Stones were pelted. And the police shot back using live bullets. That's what you said.
Live bullets.
Live bullets.
Yeah.
Right.
They use both the rubber bullets and the live bullets.
They use both rubber bullets and live bullets.
Yes. So we all pick part of the rubber bullets and the live bullets. We pick both of them. Like, people have the shells of the bullets.
So there's evidence. But of course, once it's been touched and all of that, it may be somewhat compromised.
A lot of evidence.
Right. So youth in Akatsi also think there's some sort of grand cover-up. You spoke about the van earlier.
Yes.
Why? What exactly is fanning this flame of a cover-up?
Okay. What's fanning this flame is that, you see, everybody felt an accident car usually being parked at a police station for investigations to go on, because it's definitely part of the evidence. But then on Saturday, there was news in town that boys saw the van that had knocked down the guys at a feeding station being repaired. That is, so everybody felt it was an attempt by the police to tamper with evidence and cover up the whole thing from how it happened. And, you know, it's the last 6 months, the guy who died, the police hasn't done anything about it. You know, he was brutalized the last 6 months when he was brutalized, and then the issue we don't know what's happening. We just buried the guy last 2 weeks. And so people don't really have trust for the police in Akatsi, like the youths and the elders don't. There are a lot of issues I don't have clues about, so I can't talk. But there are a lot of things happening where people don't trust the police again. And it's very bad. It's scary. Because I think some of us believe the police, we need the police because they are going to protect us if something should happen to us. But then if the police is now attacking us, it's a problem. We're scared.
Right. You say, and it's of grave concern to me when you say the police, the people in Akatsi no longer trust the police. Because in this instance, for example, the act has been perpetrated by the police. So whom will the people report to? Obviously not the Akatsi police station, because they are also mired in the matter. So that brings me to my next question. And maybe I'll pose the same question to Wanda first. But hold for me, Salam. Wanda, I'd like to find out, this lack of confidence in the police, is it something that has come to your attention in Akatsi?
Yes, so to say.
What do you mean by so to say?
Yes, I said so because I would say this actually came to mind when we lost our brother 6 months ago. So simply because of that, there is much anger in the heart of the youth. Because of that, the youth just lost confidence in the police. That is what the information I've gathered on the ground so far. as a leader.
So for at least 6 months, there has been that lack of confidence in the police service, and time and again, this is the third incident that we're having. So where then do you seek justice? Are you going to petition, for example, the Inspector General of Police? Have you reached out to the regional minister, for example, who is chairperson of the RegSec? What has been the move to get some investigation going into this matter?
Well, I would say, even as of yesterday, though I wasn't around, I was monitoring everything on the radio stations in our town. So I realized that when it got to a stage, I had the regional commander and then a regional crime officer, including our MP and then our municipal commander. I had them all on radio, trying to console the families and then to persuade the youth to prevail peace in the area. So for now, I would say the issue has already gotten to a higher level. So I believe as professionals at the top, they know how they're going to deal with this issue. So at this time, we want to leave it to them. We want to leave it up to them to see how best they can resolve the entire issue, so that by the end of the day, peace will prevail in our town.
Right.
Yeah.
Do hold for me, gentlemen. I'll come back to you about what your expectations are. Selom and co. Please hold, just hold for me. But let me also engage Adib Sani, a security analyst. Adib, thank you for joining the conversation. What do you make of this development? For starters, what do you make of it?
Well, it's an unfortunate incident. Some of us received the news with utter shock. Because for that many persons to die in the hands of the police is definitely a worrying phenomenon. However, the violence that we are witnessing is as a result of the mistrust people in the area have in the police. As a matter of fact, I have taken the trouble to speak with some one or two persons, and they pointed to previous encounters with the police, especially between the police and the youth. And there's widespread mistrust and lack of confidence in the police. And so sometimes some of these frustrations simmer until a trigger causes people to respond. So I think that this should serve as a unique opportunity on the part of the police to win the hearts and minds of the people by ensuring that proper investigations is conducted, by ensuring that if their men are found culpable, they should be dealt with according to the law. They should also give the opportunity to the police to reach out to the people in the area and to get them to buy into the idea that the police is their friend, which invariably would engender their trust and confidence.
Let's talk about evidence. Selom tells me that some residents there have, the police has been accused of using live bullets together with rubber bullets, and that they have evidence. On the other hand, we also have the bit concerning the van concerned, which supposedly rammed into the three on a motorbike, which again, allegedly was hastily repaired. Is this tampering with evidence?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but it's quite obvious. Even if there's a scratch on a police property, you have to report it. You don't have to make any attempt to even clean it with a brake fluid. And so the fact that there was a hasty attempt to clean up the mess obviously is indicative of an attempt to cover up, and that should also be looked into. In recent times, the police has been very high-handed, with respect to the fight against, armed robbers. Today, you hear 3 persons gunned down, suspected to be robbers. Tomorrow, you hear 5 persons. And I asked the question the other day, how do we know that, the police is not abusing its powers? How do we know that indeed these people were legitimately gunned down Because until, even if someone holds a weapon, until the person makes an attempt to lift it to shoot you, you are not in a position to fire back. And there's what we call the law of proportionality. I think sometimes they are being unnecessarily high-handed, and I do understand the psychological situation in which some police officers find themselves owing to some of their colleagues dying right before their eyes, them exchanging fire with armed robbers. So there's always that quick propensity to use force, deadly force, when you could have used other, forces before even escalating to that level. So I think we need to ensure there's accountability. So we don't have people killed unjustifiably, like it happened near Kumasi some years ago with the killing of the Zongo boys. And we're all told they were robbers, only for us to get to know that they were not. So what happened to that case? If we don't ensure that accountability, you create a cycle of impunity and get more officers into thinking that the uniform grants them invincibility. And that's not the way to go. Because like I always say, it is in the interest of the police to ensure accountability, because without the people, there's absolutely no way you can do your job.
And again, going back to the incident that you talk of, yes, we'll hear of interdictions and later compensation, but then that is it. We don't even know what happens to the officers in question. What more would you like to see done before I go back? I don't want to lose sight of that question.
Okay, so I think that when the IGP came, he was hell-bent on building confidence and trust in the police service. We've seen a lot of changes that have been made. However, it doesn't end there. We need to deal with the issues of accountability. Always, there's an internal process. There is addiction, like you rightly mentioned, and in the end, you don't know what becomes of that case. So I think that going forward, we need to have a robust, institutionalized regime to look into this. We shouldn't leave it in the hands of the police, because it's almost, would not be progressive if you are asked to investigate your father or your mother. So if you ask the police to investigate the police, what do you expect? So we need to have a board, made up of representatives from the police, from a multidisciplinary body of some sort, to look into some of these issues independently. If not, we would always have an attempt in some cases on the side of the police to cover up for two major reasons. One, because they don't want to be dragged into disrepute, and secondly, because they want to maintain morale. And I don't think that is the way to build confidence.
All right. Two quick issues I want you to address before I go back to Selim and the assemblyman. And I'll start from where you wrapped off, a cover-up. What should be done in such an instance? Because the youth obviously cannot go to the same Akatsi police that they distrust or mistrust. So what process would you suggest that they follow?
So,
and maybe to add to that, Adib,
sure.
So what should usually happen? There's a lot of mistrust now. Should the officers at post be swapped? Should there be a replacement as an initial step to sort of build trust in the youth again?
That is standard practice. So far as we are in the thick of a controversy and an investigation is to be conducted, you have to step aside so you don't interfere with that process. So I would advise the youth to petition the IGP, and I would have also advised the IGP to quickly dispatch some investigators from Accra, not from Akatsi, to look into the matter. And before they start anything, they should meet up. Even the police top command should meet up with the people through their chiefs and other opinion leaders and reassure them of their unflinching commitment to ensuring that the right thing will be done, and of course justice will be served before they get to work. And we Ghanaians generally also have not really over the years appreciated the workings of SHRAJ. SHRAJ has enormous powers. Sometimes if you follow some routes and things don't seem to be progressing, I think we should take it to SHRAJ, and that sometimes also pushes some stakeholders to stand up and do the right thing. So, I mean, whatever means they have to explore legally. Certainly, violence shouldn't be part of it. Should be explored.
Right. Jibode is watching us live from the UK. She says, watching you live, it's sad what happened in Akatsi. The police are abusing their powers. But quickly on the bit about using live ammunition. What is your take on that? I bring it up because we've heard it time and again. Rubber bullets versus live, bullets in there. What exactly should we be considering in this instance? Was it justified for them to use live bullets on the youth?
All right. So live bullets should be the last resort. And you only use live bullets when you've used all other means. And we have a lot of them. You can use the water cannon. You can use tear gas. You can use batons. You can use rubber bullets. Okay? Then the last resort would be live bullets. And that is when the life of the police or other innocent people is in danger, and they have no other option but to neutralize that danger. That is when they use live bullets. However, in many scenarios, the last resort is always the first resort, like we had at Ijera. Okay, when they arrive, start firing. And we had a similar case in Tamale with a young man's jaw almost dropping off his face.
Yeah, I remember.
And he's not gotten the justice. I mean, they called me just, I think, about a week ago. They've been making follow-ups, and nobody seems to pay attention to him. He's not able to feed. He feeds through a tube. No accountability whatsoever. So we need to get officers to understand that we have levels of force that can be used. And sometimes, situations can be de-escalated, as a matter of fact. But once you arrive and, that showmanship, that bravado, the people also become agitated. Then things just escalate and get out of hand. All right? So I think, one, we need to really look into the training regime to get officers to make wise decisions and not exaggerate the threats. I mean, there are situations where someone would insult an officer and he's cocking a gun. You get me? Someone is running from the police. You don't know why. It could be his license. Maybe his license has expired. Then he starts firing. No. Secondly, we need to ensure that we curb that, cycle of impunity. People doing the wrong thing and not being held to account. And that is quite common, and that is what I must say on a larger note, encouraging more and more officers to do the wrong thing, hoping that their organs at the top would protect them. And that, I must say, is also wrong. So I think this should be part of a wider reforms that really should be taken care of going forward.
Right. Adib Sani, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, for engaging us on this bit. If we still have the Assemblyman and Selom, I'd just like to pick your final comments about what you want to see moving forward. Selom, are you there? Right. It appears we've lost them, but at least we've got different...
I'm over here.
Selom, all right.
Yeah.
So what are your expectations
the line
moving...
is breaking, but I think it's okay now.
Very quickly. What are your expectations moving
your question
forward?
Again.
Hello, Selom?
What? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I'm asking simply in some 30 seconds, what are your expectations moving forward? My
expectations?
Yes.
All right, what we're going to do is, just like Mr. Adib said, we're thinking about petitioning the IGP, with the whole issue, tell them stories, that people speak up. And then we'd also talk to try, just as you said, we're going to try and petition and make sure justice is done in this case. There's been other cases we weren't able to fight for justice because we weren't able to get the family on board. But this one, the guy's family, they're a bunch of educated people. And they are really as much angry as we the youths are. So this time around, I am very hopeful we're going to have justice in this case because we would follow up. So we're just praying that the news would also keep remembering, join us would keep, remembering with everything we get to. If there's no justice coming, we would come say it, because sometimes issues die down in Ghana within 2 weeks and nobody does nothing. So we are hoping this time around the police would, there would be justice. And we hope the police in Akatsi won't be the people to investigate the issues, because they will still cover up a lot. So I'm just praying that the police would try and help, restore the integrity in Akatsi. That way, there'll be peace.
Is a resident there. Wanda Ametepe, if you're still with us, you'll have the final bite as well, some 30 seconds. All right, thank you. We've lost Wanda on the line. But that is our conversation on that development in Akatsi, in the Volta region.